All right, so we're going to be making the bell card. This one doesn't have a lot of cuts, so that's nice and it makes it easy. The only thing that's a little bit hard is when we are making our bow at the top with our pipe cleaner. It's not super hard, it takes a few steps and you have to be very patient. So what I have and I need for this one is I have my pipe cleaner. I have my 3 pieces for my bell that I'm going to be cutting and gluing together. So you should have a long skinny rectangle, a square, and a long fat rectangle. All mine are yellow because that's usually what color a bell is. If you have more of a gold color, a darker yellow, that's fine as well. I also have, I'm going to do a half sheet for my inside message. I'm just going to do a happy holiday one. You can use whatever one you would like. And I'm doing a green for the actual background or the part of my card. So I have done these with all different types of paper. You can choose. This is just a 9 by 12 piece of construction paper. It is a little bit thicker than the other construction paper, so this is also construction paper. It's a different brand and it's much thinner. I've also made my other cards. So these other cards are all on cardstock. I've also done it with just normal printer paper, and it's completely up to you. You can choose the background color. I've done them all white. I actually prefer them on different colors. It makes it a little bit more fun. The other things that if you want to add a little bit to it, you might want to get gold glitter. You can add different things as well. So let's go ahead and let's get started. I am going to start by doing my card first. All I'm going to do, this is going to be the base. So that means I'm going to be putting stuff on the outside and the inside. This is where everything's going to get glued to. So I'm going to fold it first. When we're doing cards, you're always going to fold them the same. So I'm going to fold, I always like to do corner to corner. That's what I mean. One side to the other side. So corner to corner, top corners to bottom corners. And then as I'm lining up my corners, you can see my other hand is pressing down just slightly. And then all I'm going to do is slide my fingers and press. So I have a crease. The bell card. Here's something fun about this card. There's a few of them that you can do this with. This card, you can either make it go tall like this or short like this. It's completely up to you. I think this one I'm going to actually do this way. My last bell card I made, I did do it going up and down, and so my bells actually hung off a little bit. And like I said, we're going to be doing our bow with the pipe cleaner. And for this one, you're going to want white glue. I also, though, still use my normal school glue as well, this glue stick. So I don't need this part yet. This is my base. I'm going to set it aside so I don't need to worry about it. The next thing I'm going to do is my writing, and I'm going to do that really quick. Next step, I'm doing the bells. So I'm going to cut the pieces and get them how I need it, and then glue everything down at the end, especially because of the pipe cleaner. The bells, what's neat about this is that we are going to be making 2 bells. You can see I only have 1 of each of these because what we're going to do is actually make 2 of each thing all at once. So I'm going to start with my big rectangle here, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it nice and tall still, and then I'm going to fold my top all the way down to my bottom. And then I'm going to press so it's folded in half. So now it should kind of be able to open up. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to keep it folded. Again, I'm doing 2 at once, and I'm just doing this so I don't have to do 2 separate ones, and it just makes it a little bit quicker. But you could always do 2 separate ones at the same time. So what we're going to do is we're going to be making our bell shape, or the top part of it. So the top part is kind of rounded at the top, and then we're going to keep this bottom part like this. So up at the top where your fold is, we're going to cut off 2 triangles. 1, 2. Now it kind of looks like a tag or a little house. Those are my pieces I cut off. I'm going to keep those because I'm going to show you how our cuts are going to be very similar, but they get smaller as we go. So here are my big cuts. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be trimming off my corners. Again, I'm just focusing up here. Normally if I'm doing an oval or a round shape, I'm going to do the whole thing. This one, I'm just going to focus on these. So you can also tell mine are very different sizes. You can either keep it like that Or if you want to make it more even, you can also go back and try to make it a little bit more even. Okay, so like there, I did that. You also don't have to do that. So that's your preference. I usually don't do it. Now what I'm going to do is I have 1, 2, 3, 4. What we do is take your scissors. Again, everything is still folded. And all we're going to do is we're going to just cut off that corner. So now where that corner was, I have a flat spot. I'm going to do that with all 4. And you notice how when I do it, I turn my paper. So now when I look, here are my pieces I cut. We can see how my pieces went from big to much tinier. You can also see how my shape is starting to become round. Now what I'm going to do is the same thing, because we can tell it's not completely round. I still can see those points pretty easily. So I'm going to do same exact thing, folding my 2 together and cut off all those points. And I just turn my paper a little. And you can see I'm just going through and just barely cutting anything off. I'm just getting those sharp points off. Okay, so I did all my points. Now you can see here was my first cut, here's my second cut, and my third cut. You can't even see them because they are so tiny, like itty bitty. You don't need big cuts. And if we look at our bell shape, it's now round instead of our rectangle or square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up because I'm pretty happy. I don't really see any sharp sides. And mine's still connected. Yours may not be. If yours is still connected like this, there are 2 things you can do. You can either very carefully just cut right there, or the much easier thing is hold it and pull. See, I barely got to pull, mine fell off. And I now have 2 of these shapes, which is exactly what I needed. I'm going to set these aside because I'm going to put it all together once I've done all the cutting. Let's get our next rectangle, and we're going to do the same thing we did on this one. Fold it in half, so instead of it being tall, it's a shorter version, still skinny. Okay. And I am going to actually cut off all 4 corners this time because we want to make this an oval. So we're going to do the same thing, but instead of just on top, I'm going to do it on all of them. Ready? So again, keep it folded. We're going to do 1 corner, 2, 3, 4. Okay, here's my beginning cut. I always like to keep my scraps just as I'm cutting, just so I can see how I didn't cut a lot off, but I made a completely different shape. This one, I will say, as we're trimming it, it's gonna get a little bit harder because our folded portion is really tiny right now. So make sure when you're cutting and you're turning it, just hold it tight. If they do become separated and you're only cutting one, it's fine. You're gonna do the same thing with the other one. So if it falls apart, it's totally fine. So my next step is I need to cut all 8 of these corners I just made. So I'm gonna make sure my paper's lined up, and again, just trim off those points. And we can see, gather up my little scrappies. I'm getting definitely more oval shape, still not exactly oval. You can still see there are some points, so we're going to do the same exact thing and trim those off. Again, mine will probably fall apart as I'm doing this because my little fold that's holding it together is basically gone. So just go around and cut off those points until you don't really see them anymore. So mine, like I said, as I was cutting, mine did come apart. I'm just going to double check to make sure, because this one was on the back. It is a little pointy, so I'm just going to trim off that really quick. And if you notice one of yours has a little point still, that's fine, just trim it. Okay, I'm pretty happy with those, so I'm going to set those aside. Now my last step that I'm doing. Here's my square. We're basically doing the same thing we just did with that one, but on a square. So instead of an oval, this is going to turn into a circle. This is going to be the middle part of our bell. So the thing that's inside that bangs against the side and rings, we are going to be making that. And instead of folding it in half now, we're gonna actually fold it in half once we're done making the circle. Ready? So I don't need to do anything with this yet except for cut off the corners. So we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you guys look, it should look similar to a stop sign. Mine is a little crooked because again, my triangles are different sizes and that's okay. So now that I've made my stop sign, now I'm going to trim off these points. I'm going to go through, remember, and just barely kind of cut these off. We don't need to really do a lot of it. So it's going to notice as you're going, you're going to notice I've done half of it. Do you see how half is now rounder and this half looks much more pointy? I'm just going through and trimming off those points. I now have my circle. It's not a perfect circle and that is fine. What we're gonna do is now we're gonna fold this in half. And again, mine is not a perfect circle, so mine will not line up exactly, and that's fine. So once I fold in half, I'm gonna open it, and you should have a little fold line, and all you're going to do is cut that line. I messed mine up a little, and guess what? It's fine. Okay, I finished all my paper cutting. And before I do my pipe cleaner, I'm gonna actually put my little bell together. So each bell is going to need our big little dome part, our oval, and our semicircle or half circle. What we're gonna do is I am going to put our oval on top, and then our other two shapes are gonna go behind it. So I'm gonna show you how I do it. I'm going to start with my oval, and I'm just going to take my glue stick and right down the middle. Okay. Next, I'm going to take the top part, and I'm going to do it almost, it's about halfway, maybe a little bit more than halfway down my oval I did, and just press it down. So now if you flip it over, it looks like this. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to flip this back over, and I'm going to put glue about halfway in between my oval and then underneath the top portion. And then what I do is I take my semicircle, my flat edge, I'm going to line it up against the bottom of that big piece and press it down. Okay. So now, if I turn it over, you can see I have my bell. Another way you could do this is, and this is why I like glue stick, because I can peel it off. You can actually put it like this on the front part of it. And I can show you what we can do to make that look a little more interesting. So I will do my next one, same step. All right, so I did one of each type of bell. I did one with the inside part on the back and one on the front. The next thing I'm gonna grab is my crayon. I want yellow. If you have a gold or like a deeper yellow, you can also use that. It might look a little bit better. And I'm going to show you how, using our crayon, we can kind of add a little bit more depth to make our bell look more realistic. So I'm going with my crayon, and all I'm doing is going up, and I'm kind of following the side of the bell. The other thing I'm going to do, if you're using the one with the bell on the front, let me use my tan and see if that helps. So we can make it so it's like, this is the top part. You want to make it almost seem like there's an inside of the bell and an outside of the bell. And this is our inside. So it's going to be a little bit darker. Do the same thing on this bell. So again, all I'm doing is I'm following along the shape of this bell. And I'm not doing the whole thing. I'm only doing about half. So it looks like the bell has light shining on it. I'm going to do the same thing down here, following, making like a backwards J. That's basically what I'm doing. Okay, and you can even color in this darker. It's really up to you. You don't even have to do this. Another thing you could do is you can get some glitter. I put my tube glitter on. I'm going to let that dry. While that's drying, I'm going to show you what we're going to do with our pipe cleaner for our bow. So get ready because we're going to be folding in half quite a few times right now. First thing is you're going to choose your color pipe cleaner. I'm going to do red to go with mine. You can choose whatever one you want. And what you're going to do is take it and we're going to bend it in half. So I like to just line up my two ends and then pull it down into like a loop and press. And then I'm going to cut that in half. So cut. Some fuzzies will come off. That's okay. I know, glitter and fuzzy on here, it's fine. I'm going to take just one of these halves right now. And are you ready? We're going to fold it in half. Okay. So fold it in half. And you're going to actually cut this one in half as well. So now I have these two and this one. So these are fourths. Then I'm going to just take one of them and I'm going to fold this one in half as well. Told you, lots of folding in half. And I'm just going to squeeze it. And so now it should be little, it's like a little V. I'm going to use this in a minute. I'm going to set that aside. This other one that we had, we're not going to use it, so you can use it for something else if you feel like. Get your bigger piece that was a half. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. Fold it in half again. So fold, line up the ends and fold it. But this time I'm not cutting. So I want that fold because it's gonna help me for what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be making a bow. You can either do this with your finger or you might want to use a pencil or a marker, something that is round. I just do it with my finger, but sometimes it's easier to do it with other things, but you can use what you want. So I'm going to show you. What you're going to do is I'm going to kind of hold it like an L right now. And I'm going to put my finger, my pointer finger right in that corner. So then what I'm going to do is I have one going straight up and the other one's going down, like I said, like an L. I'm going to take the bottom one and I'm going to wrap it around my finger. Okay. So now it's over my finger. And if you take your finger out, it kind of looks like a really little, tall, it looks like a lowercase b, but with a really tall side. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this back around the back side and over, like that. Okay. So I have a loop and it went back over. Then it's easier for me to actually flip it. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Okay, so this time I don't have my big line, but all I'm going to do is I'm putting my finger right next to that loop we just made. And we're going to wrap that around. Okay, see it's wrapped. And then I'm going to actually move my finger because I couldn't fit it around. So that, I just wrapped it, but I need to put it around like that. So I wrapped it around the back side. They're not even, but that's okay. And then I'm gonna actually just trim this bottom part. So those are the same. My bow part isn't the same. I'm fine with that. So now I have a little tiny bow. This, my little V, I'm gonna actually put it like that because this is what it's gonna just hold my bow a little bit. And I'm going to glue these down, and this is going to be like where the bells are hanging from. So you're going to need your white glue, because if you've ever worked with pipe cleaners, they're kind of finicky or tricky. They don't like to stay all the time. So you're going to use white glue to glue this down. I glue it in 3 spots. I'm gluing it right on the back of where we just made our little loops in the bow. Hopefully you have white glue that's not running out. So I'm going to put a blob there. And I'm going to put a blob on each end of these long beads. If you have a hot glue gun, you could also do that. Use that, and it would dry a lot faster. Okay, so you do have to press down. Some glue might come out. It's okay. So you're going to hold it down. Press, press, press. Again, if you had a hot glue gun, this does go a little bit quicker with the hot glue gun because hot glue dries faster. Right? And after I pressed it, I'm going to be gluing my bells on. All right, and you can fluff up your bow if you want, make it stand up. So you could also add other details to it. You could add shadow. You can do whatever you would like. There's your bow card, and I hope whoever you give it to loves it.